Thank you very much for attending this afternoon's webinar. Today we'll be talking about virtual teams. Virtual team is quite close to my heart because I've been doing this for quite some time. And so let me give you an overview of my experience in the topic that we have today. Uh, After graduating from the University of the Philippines, 1986, I was employed at the International Rice Research Institute, and the department or project that I was assigned into is actually a collaboration among 25 countries. And this is where my exposure to working with people not within one physical office started. And then, of course, when I eventually joined Fujitsu, I was in charge of the Japan business group, and this is when I was working with you know management team engineers from different cities from India, from Tokyo, of course, a few cities in Japan, Singapore, and the Philippines. And then at Ayala Corporation, I started an outsourcing, offshoring IT services business unit, and my customers were mainly from Europe, Japan, and Asia Pacific. So again, I was working with teams from India, Singapore, and a few other countries, including Australia. And lastly, 2018, one of the digital platforms that I developed was eventually acquired by this leading bank in the Philippines, and I became part of the McKinsey and Company digital transformation project in that bank. And so, we went through the process of um, training and all that. So that's a very brief background there. Now, I guess everyone knows who Steve Jobs is. And as he said, we're here to put a dent in the universe. And that's, for him, he definitely has achieved significant milestones and sort of major dents, in the universe. He has indeed had accomplished a lot. For us, we have our own um, dents that we can actually create. If we call it, let's call our goals and BHAGs, big area ambitious goals, as dents. And whether you're a corporate executive or a founder of a startup company or a department head, a team leader, all of us are in this new normal. And today's webinar, I'll be talking about virtual teams and how important is a team, whether it's a physical team, team members in one office location, or a virtual team. Your team plays a very significant role, and I'll show you why, based on actual research, actual studies, how important a virtual team is, among other, success factors. So this webinar is like a personal, sharing from my end with respect to my experience, with respect to the different things that I've done as a technopreneur after being in the corporate world for like 20 years or so. So the topic, the discussion points in today's webinar will be applicable for both the executive and a founder or a startup entity. And the first one is, of course, to recognize where we are at the moment. Whether you're a corporate executive or in a startup company, recognizing where we are, our challenges as a result of the pandemic is extremely important. And so let's, very quickly define a traditional team versus a virtual team. And let me just define it by simply stating that a physical or traditional team is a setup wherein all your team members are located in one physical location, one building, one campus, wherein you're able to meet together, discuss things together, and plan things out together. But the current situation has actually brought us into what we call a virtual team, wherein your team members are not physically located in one area. It's actually multiple cities and even multiple countries. And the only way, the most efficient way to have a daily and regular communication with your team is through a conference call, Zoom, Skype, Microsoft Teams, Hangout, Viber, and so many other options. Now, after assessing, where we are at the moment, given the huge impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, the next step is really to immediately define your future, meaning, define what dent in the universe, what goal, what achievement, or what BHAG are you aiming to achieve? I'm trying to really simplify the discussion so that we can have the best context when we talk about virtual teams later on. So the step one is assessment. Step two is defining, our goal, our dent in the universe, what we want to achieve, and that's very important because that will dictate a lot of things based on the magnitude of where we want to go. Is it a small dent, a big dent, a small goal, or a really challenging and huge goal that we are trying to achieve? And let me share to all of you a slide here. I know that the text and the dots are quite small, but the main message here, and you can see it visually, is that from 2019 to 2020, uh, most of the uh, you know top industries really generating a lot of revenue uh, are now on the other side. On the left side, 2019, you'll see a lot of companies who were doing really well, like airline, fitness, lodging, hotels, hospitality industry. But in today's time, the spending for these industries is now around negative 100%. So they've lost a lot of business, while those industries on the right side have actually increased their revenues and the spending of the market by close to 100%, some at 50%, and so on. So I just would like to show here that in planning your dent in the universe, your next step, your immediate future, a quick scan of the industry is very important. The trends, when you study and take a look at the trends in the industry, this will serve as the foundation. And even when you formulate your strategic plans, this will indeed be one of the key foundations. So let's talk about what would be the success elements. Again, whether you're a startup or a well-established corporation, there are usually five elements, and the top elements behind that are with us in this slide. It could be uh, the business idea, it could be the team, it could be the business model, the funding, the budget, and the timing. Actually, all of these factors are really important and critical to achieving your dent in the universe. But which one do you think is the most important? Is it the idea to rebuild your business if you've been badly affected by the pandemic, or is it the idea for a new product, a new service, a new platform, or is it funding? Will having a lot of money and being able to spend, that huge amount of money allow you to immediately recover, or would allow you to, make a bad idea really become viral and become a huge revenue generating business. So let's take a look at uh, what has happened, and how the factors that I mentioned played out. At the bottom is or are the companies that have actually closed. closed down. Friendster uh, came about much earlier than Facebook. Uh, you have companies like pets.com and so on. All of these companies are now, closed. They were failures. But when you look at the funding for Webvan, Cosmo, and pets.com, including Plus, they have, huge amounts of funding, and probably second would be uh, funding, not funding, but the timing. But what is very obvious here is the funding is really huge. And on the top side, on the upper side, is that our companies who have been really successful, and they are, unicorns, billion-dollar companies. And when you look at the funding, it's not really, as high as in terms of availability of funds, the other companies at the bottom part. So, but they are uh, quite successful. So a great idea and funding are not actually enough to be able to create success in today's times, especially with things turned around like 180%. So a clear understanding of the industry, the success factors, and how teams play a significant role as far as creating that success or achieving that dent in the universe that you would like to achieve. And and so these are the top two factors. Based on that study, which was published and aired at TED Talks, timing is number one. And that is followed by our topic today, which is team. A team actually is, for me, the most important, or as equally important as timing. But timing really is number one. And based on the study, the timing as to when you do things, when you launch let's say, a digital transformation project, the timing as to when you implement a business transformation or a business expansion or a entering into diversification, timing is extremely important. But in tandem with timing is having the right team. And so we will also talk about who should be your team members when you go after your dent in the universe, your goal that you would want to achieve. Of course, you still need to have a good idea, a good business model, and a certain level of funding. But if you have the right timing and the really right team members, then you can do a lot. So for step three, we'll be talking very quickly about how to prepare for success. And this is oriented towards having the right team. Who should be joining your team when you implement a new project, a new business initiative, an innovation, creating a new product, a new service, if you're a startup company, who should be with you? Definitely, as we have seen, team is as equally important as timing. So let's take a look at who should be joining your team. And maybe this is around late 1980s or 1990s when I chanced upon an interview of Bill Gates, and he was asked, what are the qualifications of the people that you have hired in Microsoft, because you're really doing, very well, and Microsoft, since they started, continues to be up to this day of the top technology company. And his answer is, I hire people who are intelligent, competent, uh, and know their craft, hardworking, because there is no substitute for real work. Yes, we can work smart, but things don't happen as planned. When difficulties strike us or happen in the office, in the business, in your startup, hard work will really come in. And if your team members are not into this level of working, then this will become your Achilles heel. You will fail. But the most difficult attribute or trait to find is a person who has the ability to get things done. Yes, that's very important because some people are really intelligent, they work hard, but for some reason they never get to accomplish, what they have been assigned to accomplish. So it's a continuing effort, brilliant efforts, but no final results. So you want people who can really create the results, for you to be able to achieve your dent in the universe. And since I'm really sharing based on experience and based on what has happened to my successful career as a corporate executive from the time that I graduated from the university, and I took some master level education up to becoming one of the top executives of an Ayala company. Uh, it's totally different when you go into your own business, being an entrepreneur rather than an executive. And I failed miserably when I started several companies after leaving my executive board at Ayala. I established, these companies that you are seeing here. I can see really nice logos. We had a lot of discussions, but having one or two wrong team members will really kill your business. You will not be able to achieve your dent in the universe. And so really having a team and being able to manage your team is extremely important, as we all know. Um, and a little bit later, I'll be talking about some of the best practices and how we can connect all of these things together. So we have talked about achieving or assessing where you are, creating your immediate plans or goals, and looking at your team members, who to hire, and their attributes. And but in my case, failing did not stop me from restarting or for doing other things. In fact, prior to this digital platform that I just created, which is now worth or valued at around $10 million for a 1 year effort since we started last year, and we've been featured in top uh, publications and online forums, as you can see here. There's really a lot of opportunities, but then again, when you scan the industry, there's really a lot. But then again, I would like to emphasize the timing and the team composition is extremely important. So let's really keep that in mind, because that is central to this webinar. Our realization that team and timing, these are two very important factors. And so let's go to step 4, which is harnessing the power of your team. And I would say, I would call this phase as the sacrifice stage, because no matter how we plan and how we prepare for achieving your dent in the universe, your new product, your new service, your new invention, your new innovation, your expansion plans, your transformation plans, and so on, things will not always work as planned. There would always be changes and challenges along the way. But still, we are all highly dependent on our team. And we know that they should be intelligent, hardworking, and has the ability to get things done. But I would like to also quote or mention what I have read when Mr. Rattan Naval Tata, of the Tata Group of companies, of course, with more than 800,000 employees, close to a million employees, when he said that the value, the corporate value that they are espousing and they are adhering to are speed, creativity, and excellence. And since I've learned this around maybe mid 1990s, I've always kept it and practiced it. Speed is not just about being fast. Speed also means anticipation, being able to anticipate what can potentially happen, and being ready to face that potential challenge. More importantly, mitigating that potential risk. Creativity, because there are like 100, 1,000 ways to solve a problem. A problem that can easily be solved, through creativity, and the output is always, you know, at the level of international standards, and that's why we have excellence. So this step of creating a team and and creating the right values for your team is extremely important. But I would also like to discuss, this topic, because I know we have corporate executives from the Western world, from the U.S., Europe, Australia, and they're not really from Asia. And Asia, the Asian people have a very unique way of behaving and looking at things. Like I've worked with Japanese companies, Japanese executives, maybe for around 12 years easily, and they're very different compared to, let's say, a Malaysian, a Filipino, even if they are also, within the Asia Pacific region. So there's a right way, or there should be a best way to leverage on the Asian talents, and I would like to share with you what I have learned, and this is a very important point in this webinar. The anchor, the foundation for tapping Asian talents is highly dependent on being able to create, solidify, and establish that sense of pride. And let me explain that. Sense of pride involves admiration, gratitude, and respect. For example, on the right side of the screen, maybe you know the big guy in front, that's General MacArthur, uh, an American general during World War II. And this is when they re-entered the Philippines. And the smallest guy there is Honorable Carlos P. Romulo, the first Asian Filipino to become a United Nations Secretary General. And this image actually has established, Americans as heroes for Filipinos, American soldiers as allies and friends of Filipinos. So there was huge respect, admiration, um, and sense of pride by Filipinos whenever they see Americans. And because of this, thousands and thousands of Filipinos were actually willing to die for the Americans during the war. They really, fought very, very hard to save Americans and to go after the enemy. And that part of our history, we were actually invaded by the Japanese soldiers, by Japan. On the other side, Japan has this also culture and sense of pride for their country, for their emperor, for their race, and that's why they're also willing to die for their country. So this is a very deep way of thinking and behaving from us Asians. And once you're able to solidify and get that sense of pride from us, you will be able to experience commitment and excellence, a very deep level of commitment and excellence. And once that happens, again, once that really solidifies and becomes very strong, then eventually your team members will be willing to sacrifice themselves, and maybe even sacrifice their lives to be able to achieve and help you. And in this mode, you become, or you get to establish a team that is in autopilot mode. You don't have to like really manage them physically or very closely, because they will do things as you have discussed and have and as committed. So this sense of pride, commitment, and excellence and sacrifice is very important. And you need to, as executives, you need to be able to realize this and implement this in your own organizations, because this is really central to tapping the huge talents in Asia. And Let me show you the next slide, which is about managing performance data. And I would like to, espouse that in today's times, you don't and you should not be managing people, especially once you had achieved that really deep level of commitment from your team members. You've gotten the sense of pride. You've gotten the commitment and excellence in terms of performance, and they're now willing to sacrifice, their time, effort, and probably resources, everything that they have, to be able to help the team and help you and help the organization achieve its dent in the universe or goal. So really, it's now about managing data, having data available so that you can manage your business in a very efficient and productive manner. With virtual teams, this is definitely extremely applicable because you cannot uh, manage a virtual team physically. That's why they're virtual. And so managing a virtual team is really about managing the data that is generated from the performance, the outputs, and so on that your team generates. So let me now discuss the virtual team best practices. And I would like to call this the success framework. And I would like to use this dimension of or template of people, process, and technology, especially in our field in IT. When we talk about doing something, it's really always talking about the people, the process, and the technology that we will be implementing. Um, the people we have already talked about in terms of the traits of the people that you need. They should be intelligent, hardworking, and has the ability to get things done. The value that should be shared and practiced by your team is speed, creativity, and excellence. And the foundation, as we have seen, is building that sense of pride coming from, you as a corporation, meaning they are very proud of their corporation. They become very proud of their boss. They become very proud of your products or services. And then once you have that sense of pride, you will then experience that deep level of commitment. And eventually, they'll be willing to sacrifice to be able to help you achieve your dent in the universe, your business goals. And if you're able to set up, this kind of team, then I would volunteer to say that you've actually covered around 60% of the success framework because the team, as we have seen, timing and team, these are the two top factors. So these are the elements that we all need to watch out for when creating your team. And um, the process side, and let me talk about process from the transformation, could be digital transformation, or a development of a product, a service, a digital platform, and what should be the different dimensions of a product. First, and the best practices around it. First is, do a 10-minute daily stand-up meeting. This is a best practice. And this was actually one of the lessons or trainings given to us by McKinsey and company from Australia when, the project that I told you about in the bank. So there's a daily stand-up meeting, probably just 10 minutes, asking each of the team members, what have you done yesterday? What have you accomplished? What are you going to do today? Are there any blockers or hindrances preventing you from accomplishing what you accomplished today? That you could also do weekly sprints. You talk about, and review the scope of the project, the effort needed, the man hours, the schedule, and the work breakdown. And then you also talk about and discuss about RACI, that is who is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. That's very important, extremely important. And finally, you do retrospective, meaning at the end of the sprint, at the end of what you want to accomplish for that week, you review what should be continued, what should be stopped, and you work. You do this again on the following week. So we're talking about accomplishing things on a weekly basis. This is very important to be able to get things done. A lot of things done. It has to be on a weekly basis for this kind of projects like transformation or software development and similar types of projects or engagements. A weekly process is or a weekly accomplishment is very important, and retrospective is done towards the end to review what has been accomplished. Yeah. And finally, about technology, there are so many technologies and options available, and the best way to look at technology when you are planning and you are executing your dent in the universe, your business goal, is to select the right technology. And when we talk about the right technology, it's about usability, scalability, flexibility, performance, and reliability. Again, this is very important in the selection of the tools and platforms that you would like to use. Usability talks about user being able to meet your business requirements, your users' business requirements. Scalability is about being able to work or function with one user or a million users. Flexibility is about being able to configure a platform, a software for your specific requirements or for your changing requirements. And performance is about speed, capacity, being able to work as fast as you would want things to happen in your business. And reliability, five nines, is about being available 99.999% or almost 100% of the time. And so finally, once you get to achieve your business goal, your dent in the universe, you then have to maintain that leadership position. And this is the final step. Again, in Japan, we talk about Kaizen, continuous improvement. And this is the final step. Continue to improve what you have achieved, continue to improve your product, your service, your innovation. Continuously do that because you want to keep on leading and leading while your competitors are trying to, uh, catch up. So it's extremely important to maintain that leadership position through Kaizen. So I hope I was able to give everyone, a very good appreciation, and somehow you enjoyed the five-step journey and a good appreciation of virtual teams and selecting your team members and executing, implementing some of the best practices tips that I have given. So I've enjoyed my time talking about this. Again, virtual teams is very close to my heart, and thank you very much for your time and attention. Um, let's give the floor to Grant.